There's no finer time to be in the Inland Northwest than the fall. Crisp air, bright colors, and the promise of Gonzaga basketball just around the corner. Of course, we are not without our challenges. In the Inland Northwest and beyond, inflation continues to vex economists. Interest rates rise to fight it, and fears of a recession become more imminent. The aftershocks of the pandemic continue to ripple through the economy. But we are Spokane. We are Coeur d'Alene. We are the Inland Northwest. We are nothing if not resilient and resourceful. At the Journal of Business, we endeavor to keep you, our readers, informed about what's happening in your community. Our staff is dedicated to providing you with objective information on news and trends, with the goal of helping you be more successful in your chosen path. It's time to go beyond the sound bites. It's time for more depth than 140 characters can provide. It's time for elevating the conversation.
Well, good afternoon and welcome again to Elevating the Conversation. My name is Paul Reed and it's an honor to serve as publisher of the Journal of Business. We are so pleased that every month so many of you join us for what have been some great conversations over the last almost 2 years that we've had this program. You know, we launched this series because you asked us for a venue where we can have important conversations about issues facing our business community. And we've had some great speakers so far, including folks like Stephanie Curran and Frank Velazquez and Shelley O'Quinn, Jim Frank, Steve Scranton, Larry Crowder, Chef Chad White, and many, many others. Next month, we have with us Michelle Hagee, CEO of DH. She'll be with us for a discussion about women in business in the Inland Northwest. But today, we're very pleased to have with us Eric Sawyer, CEO of Spokane Sports, for a discussion about the business of sports in Spokane. In case you haven't been paying attention, the sports industry has been on fire of late, always strong. That sector now boasts a world-class venue for indoor track and field. To add to our already substantial inventory of sports venues in Spokane, few of us truly understand the importance of sports to our economy. So this should be a very compelling discussion. But before we get to that, I want to thank Numerica Credit Union for sponsoring this month's Elevating the Conversation. We don't get to do these things without the great support of some partners in our community, and Numerica is certainly one of our best partners. So thank you, Numerica. Today, I am pleased to have with us Nicole Sherman, Chief Operating Officer of Numerica, to say a few words. Welcome, Nicole.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Sherman, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Numerica Credit Union. We're honored to sponsor today's event as we elevate the conversation about an important topic, the business of sports and how that plays into Spokane's economy. As the official credit union sponsor of Eastern Washington University Athletics and a proud sponsor of Gonzaga Athletics, the Spokane Chiefs Hockey Club, and other teams across the region, we know firsthand that cheering on our teams as they win big fuels this economy. There's nothing quite like the energy inside the kennel during a Zags basketball game or being in the inferno after the Eagles score a winning touchdown. Spokane's fans are passionate and loyal. That's why Numerica is thrilled to offer exclusive Eagles, Zags, and Whitworth debit cards to root on all of our teams all year round. Numerica supports EWU's football program in a unique and meaningful way through Touchdowns for a Cause, where we team up with local nonprofits to donate $100 for every Eastern touchdown scored. With the Eagles having such a consistently high scoring offense, well, we know we picked the right team to raise the money for such a great cause. Numerica's spirit of philanthropy also shows up during the Gonzaga basketball season through Assist with Kids, a program that raises money for local youth serving nonprofits like Children's Miracle Network and YMCA. Numerica proudly donates $100 to nonprofit partners for every Gonzaga basketball assist during the season, up to $5,000. We love the opportunity to unite the life-changing work of organizations like CMN and the YMCA alongside the excitement of the Gonzaga basketball games. Numerica's core purpose is enhancing lives, fulfilling dreams, and building communities. We've been part of the Spokane community for more than 80 years. And in that time, we've seen our city grow and our sports team become a powerhouse across the nation. We love being part of this community and appreciate the Journal of Business's commitment to bringing experts together to have these discussions. We appreciate all of you for being here, and we're honored to be the sponsor of today's event. Thank you, and go teams.
Thank you, Nicole, and welcome everyone to Elevating the Conversation. My name is Lynn Parrish. I'm the editor of the Journal of Business. And of course, I'm joined by Eric Sawyer, Spokane Sports today.
Glad to be here.
Talk about one of my favorite subjects, sports.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
So I think a good place for us to start today, Eric, would just be with the scope of your organization, because I think when we picture sports in Spokane, we all picture something a little bit different. So yeah, tell us about what you guys do. And
yeah, well, a little history first.
Sure.
Spokane Sports got its start clear back in 1989
Mhm.
when we formed a nonprofit. And it was funded through an old program called Momentum, which I think a lot of the viewers will probably remember. Yeah. And we kind of fell under the tourism strategies where we wanted to attract visitors, and sports was one of those strategies. And it was really kind of patterned after an organization called the Indianapolis Sports Corporation.
Okay.
Where Indy kind of took the whole amateur sports world and decided they were going to build their whole brand as a community around amateur sports, built facilities, and it just took off.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't take long for a lot of markets around the country to start to say, hey, there's something about this whole sports thing that has an economic influence that we needed to go after. So the Momentum funded the program, made a business plan. We were able to hire a couple of staff people, and the rest has been history. So really our job is to take sports and build on it in economic development terms. Now, it kind of falls into a couple of different categories. One is certainly tourism, where we're attracting teams and athletes and fans from all over, literally the world, and around the country who are coming here for an event. And that process is a competitive process.
Of course.
So we're competing against other markets around the country to get these events with national governing bodies. And one of the best examples of that, if you want to host the NCAA men's first and second rounds in basketball, which we have done successfully, and we'll do it again in 2024, there's 8 sites around the country, but there'll probably be 60 to 70 cities that will bid for that event.
Sure.
So it's very competitive.
Right.
So my job and our team's role is to look at these events, identify what's a good match in our market, and the match is based on everything from obviously from facilities, if you have an arena or the podium, and anything else that we have. Then look at what it would take to bring the event here. Is there a local organizing group that would like to do it, and sort of measure its value to the community, and then do what it takes to pursue it in the bidding process.
Sure.
And bidding for events is kind of an art form.
I can imagine. Yeah.
And every governing body of sport and every bid is a little different. You got to kind of know what you're doing. And probably the best thing you can provide anybody who's making decisions is a resume of success.
Sure.
And I think something that we sort of take for granted and don't even understand is how successful we are as a community in sports. Largest timed road race, Bloomsday, largest 3-on-3 basketball, Hoop Fest. If you look at all these events, and when we do host NCAA, we tend to lead the country in ticket sales. We have, we've set attendance records in just about everything we've ever done.
Sure.
And that resonates out there in these sports governing bodies who are making decisions. We were fortunate enough this week to host the ACES conference. This is the Association of Chief Executive Officers for Sports.
Right.
This is the CEOs of basically the Olympic movement in sports who are here in town. And a lot of them had never been here. And we're talking up, hey, this is a market that we want to definitely take a look at in the future for what you guys are able to do here. And Spokane is in a unique perspective in the sense that we're kind of the right size.
Okay.
We're not too big,
and we're not too small.
Sure.
You know, a lot of these events that we do in our region, if they were done in a Seattle or an LA or a major market, they kind of get swallowed up. They're competing for attention with everything else, especially in the professional level of sports.
Sure. Sure.
But so our second tier market is perfect market where they tend to come here and we give them the keys to the city.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it resonates. The media follows it. That translates to attendance and spectators, and these governing bodies know that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in a good position. We've done a great job in building a strong resume. But you know, there's a lot of work that goes into sports and continuing this path.
Sure.
And one of the things that we've been very active with in the last probably 10, 15 years is facility development. You can only do so much unless you have these venues.
Right.
And you know, the podium, which we just opened this year, which is really turned out to be exceeded even our early expectations as it relates to, especially as an indoor track complex.
Mm-hmm.
It really was a process that started probably 10 years ago as a discussion.
Sure.
And it was written on a napkin, you know, and said, what do we do with this idea? And moving it forward. And we've been I've been around long enough. I was involved when the arena was being developed,
right.
Plants Ferry, the Dwight Merkle complex. All of these facilities need a little push. And so our job is to step in and talk about the impact and what it means for a community.
Well,
like
let's come
Spokane.
back to facilities a little bit later.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to ask you a little bit about some specific facilities.
Sure.
But before that, I wanted to talk about, you know, it's been a long last almost 3 years now, right?
Yeah.
And so, and we've seen it's easy for time to become a little bit distorted over the last 3 years.
I'd kind of like to forget the last couple of years if we could.
But maybe not the last 12 months, right?
No.
So can you characterize for us what's happened over the last 12 months in your world?
Well, in March of 2020, I started working in an industry that just didn't exist anymore.
Sure.
As many probably recall, we were scheduled to host the men's basketball, NCAA basketball in the arena in March, and it just shut off. And that shut off the world of sports. And it was a challenge. But I kept telling our team and I kept telling our board and everybody that, you know, maybe this is a good time to plan for the future.
Sure.
Let's get through this. But what it did in an interesting, and I want to say this was a positive, but what it did was it really created this pent up demand.
Sure.
And I think what it did, it sort of said how to communities, and it said to sports fans, and it said to athletes and coaches how much they miss it.
Yeah.
And when it came back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
Everything we've been doing since we've kind of coming out of this COVID has exceeded our expectations as it relates to participation numbers and spectators, and interest. The only bad thing about it is it squeezed everything into a shorter period, where before we were working maybe 2 or 3 years out to attract an event.
Yeah.
We've been working on events that have been 6 months out because they're catching up. They're trying to, and that's one thing that I can say we can do in Spokane with our team in our community is we can respond pretty quickly.
Sure.
And we needed to do that in order to get some of these events, because there was some that just said, we got no place to go.
Yeah.
What do you think, Spokane?
Yeah.
We're here.
Well, and they couldn't plan 2 to 3 years out in advance because who knew when you were going to be able to actually do something again.
Yeah. And it was a challenge. It's starting to level out now. We're starting to get more back into the traditional patterns.
Meaning the traditional sales cycle.
Yeah,
where
kind
you're
of
working on things that are in 25, 26, maybe.
Exactly. We're trying to get out there further as much as we can. You know, the other thing, even pre-COVID, is if you kind of look at tourism in its many segments, the one segment of travel, when you conventions and leisure and corporate travel, the one segment that even through the Great Recession kept growing every single quarter was sports related.
Okay.
Sports travel. And if you think about it, you know, if you've got like a child who's qualified for some event,
Sure.
And you've got disposable income, you might say, okay, we're not gonna hit Disneyland this year, but we're sure as heck gonna get to the event that our son just qualified or daughter qualified
Right.
for. And then what happens is then they tend to travel as families in sports.
Sure.
And so that the impact has really been really strong within the world of sports travel, which has created an arms race.
Yeah.
All around the country, we're seeing sports venues pop up. We're seeing everybody's really in the market and attracting sports. So it's a little bit of a buyer's market out there.
Sure, I can imagine.
So fortunately, we've been around a long time. We know the game. We know the systems. We know what works, doesn't work.
Sure.
We know how to maximize our budget in order to get the best return on our investment. And we have really tremendous partners.
Sure.
It starts with the Public Facilities District. And we're lucky as a community that we have a PFD here and what they are able to do with the facilities. We have a great relationship with Visit Spokane. They're a key partner.
Absolutely.
All of our hotels, restaurants, everybody sort of rallies around this whole idea.
Yeah, because when you talk about sports and doing the bidding process, a lot of what we picture are like the figure skating championships,
Right.
or the track and field championships that were here last
January.
winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but some of the larger economic impact pieces are like the PNW qualifiers for volleyball.
P&Q, yeah.
P&Q, yeah.
Yeah, this is, I think a lot of people get surprised when I tell them this, is the largest sporting event we do in our community by hotel stays.
Yeah.
Is the Pacific Northwest volleyball qualifier. It's
Which is basically high school kids, right?
Well, 12-year-old on up through
Okay.
high school girl club volleyball.
Sure.
And there's an economic impact there somewhere in the it generates somewhere around 15,000 hotel stays,
Yeah.
but it is larger than Hoop Fest and Bloomsday just by hotel stays.
Sure. Sure.
But most people don't even know it happens.
Right.
But I can
Right.
tell you the restaurants and the hotels in town, they all know when the B&Q's in town.
You do know it if you happen to wander downtown on that weekend.
There's
that's for
a lot of tall girls. No, it's and that's really part of what we're trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
But then there's also events that bring, when you talk about an event, and this is part of the process we go through. Yes, there is this tourism component.
Sure.
We're trying to bring dollars into the community, but there's also, and this sometimes can be argued might even be more valuable. It's the exposure that we
Sure.
get from sports. And let's use the NCAA basketball as another example. When we host the men's tournament here, we'll get somewhere around 15 hours of cable network television
Mhm.
broadcasting. And those messages are going out there as that camera swings back and forth along the court. And here's Spokane, Spokane, Spokane. We're sending strong messages out that we're a healthy community, a community you might want to look into relocating. It might be a community to invest in. It really helps Visit Spokane, maybe when they're trying to attract a meeting planner, or when GSI is out doing their thing and trying to attract a small business or company. We're sending a message. It's advertising.
Yeah.
We're broadcasting that we might be a community you might want to take a look at.
Well, I've thought about that when I've been watching basketball. They come back from commercial break and there's that, I don't know what it is, 10, 15-second shot down the river.
The beauty shot. Yeah.
When the river's just raging in March, it doesn't hurt.
No, it really, and then that's just what we sort of see. Then there's the social network
Right.
side of sports,
Right.
and how many messages are going out around the country from Spokane when we host an event. It may not even be broadcast. It's a social network of sports. We're a very social conscious nation when it comes to sports.
Absolutely.
So a lot of communities around the country are building their whole sports development programs around the idea that we just want a lot of exposure. We want to go after those events that bring a lot of media impressions to our marketplace.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways we measure. We also measure just the quality of life. It's part of the entertainment mix. It's a chance to maybe experience an event that you wouldn't otherwise be able to see
Sure.
in our market. Sometimes it's a great way to expose a sport in a community and bring interest into it. We hosted
Sure.
the Karate National Championships
Yeah.
this summer, and it brought a lot of interest in the sport of karate.
Yeah, you see, I was just thinking about that, seeing the kids in their gis walking down
Yeah,
Washington Street. So,
yeah, and and I could wax on a lot longer if you want me to about why we want kids active in athletics.
Course, yeah.
And it doesn't. I don't care what the sport is. Let's just get kids outside being active and all the health reasons that are associated with that.
So I'd asked you about the first 12 or the last 12 months.
Yeah.
What do the next 12 months look like?
It looks strong because we're part of this momentum that's building. And honestly, I would like to say I credit our team and what we've been able to accomplish, especially when we came out of COVID and we're able to sort of turn on our heels pretty quickly. And that resonates. That world of sports governing bodies out there is fairly small, and they talk. And they talk, got to go to Spokane. They came and rescued us in some ways. So I think that it's looking strong. Certainly the venues like the podium, we're just now discovering all of the kind of events we can put in the podium. Yes, we have an indoor track, a world-class indoor track. That's basically December through February, March, and then we've got 9 more months, and we're finding out what we can do in there. This year we've done volleyball, basketball, judo, karate. We're going to do badminton. I mean, it really is a multi-purpose venue. So we're seeing a lot of opportunities there to bring more events into the podium. And just the arena is still a gem for us and what it can do. And we're turning over rocks and looking at new unique ideas for the arena. And then it won't be long, we're going to have a new stadium. Right. So got excited about that one downtown.
Let's see. So I meant to mention, please submit your questions in the chat function on Zoom. We'll get to them as soon as Eric and I are done with our conversation. Let's talk about a little bit more about the podium, because one of the things that was interesting to me, I think it was when Stephanie was here, she was talking about the construction timetable of that actually worked fairly well with COVID inadvertently. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, what it did is we were able to talk about something that was under construction. We were able to showcase a venue to governing bodies, and we did a lot of this virtually. I can't tell you how many coaches around the country got a chance to see the podium from wherever they were at. So it sort of created some momentum for us to where when we did open the venue, which was December, January, it was pretty well known. And there was and it was new, and everybody's so excited out there going, a new venue. It really, in some ways it kind of helped us. It would have been a challenge if that place had opened, say, in January of 2020. To come out of COVID with the demand that we have and have it open at the right time was just blind luck on our part, I guess. And a lot of credit to the PFD and Leidig and Integris, the contractors who kept that place working and building all through the COVID period. That was pretty fun to watch.
So I wanted to go back to just one thing about what's coming up. So you mentioned the NCAA men's basketball first and second round early next year,
2024,
or excuse me, year after that. So what's coming up in the next 12 months?
Well, what I would encourage everybody to do is go to our website, SpokaneSports.org, and you'll get a complete list of what we're working on. What I'm really excited about is we did 13 indoor track meets in the podium. I think, and I hope I'm right on this, we're going to do something like 16 track meets in the podium this year. We didn't realize, well, yes, we did. We knew what we were getting into, but we didn't. But now it's coming to reality, how many events we're going to be doing in there. And we're going to see a lot of world-class collegiate athletes competing. But the other place that we're going to see is more of the high schools.
Oh, good.
There's this real strong interest in high school age kids. Now, Washington State doesn't have an indoor high school track season.
Sure.
But we have a lot of high school teams, high school clubs that are looking for a place to compete. So we're jumping on that bandwagon to see what's coming up in that. So there's a lot of events that I'd love to talk about, but I can't just yet.
You haven't announced yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And all I can say is I encourage people to do is keep an eye on our website and also the Public Facilities District, and you'll start to see some of these events that are coming up. We're always going to be able to see State B basketball. There's there's always going to be the P&Qs and some of those, but there's going to be some interesting events. Badminton, Junior Nationals in badminton is going to be kind of an interesting event we're going to do in the coming years. So
that is interesting.
Yeah, judo, another event, all these Olympic sport events that are fun. I tell people all the time, what's your favorite sport? And I go, I don't know if I got one, because I find, yes, I'm a basketball fan. Yes, I'm a football fan, but I find sometimes these sort of with sort of obscure team handball is one that we're really interested in. Something like that. It's really fascinating to watch. If you've never seen world-class badminton, it's a different sport indoors than it is in our backyards.
I can imagine. So you had touched on the stadium earlier. So well underway. Supposed to open fall of 2023. Is that right?
Yeah, next year.
Yeah. And so primarily high school football is the first priority, right?
And soccer,
but then
high school soccer,
but then there's also the professional soccer,
USL,
looking at that,
men's and women's.
What other opportunities will that venue provide?
Well, the way it's going to work is, so we've got the high school schedules, which is predominantly soccer and football. Then you have the USL schedules for both the men's and women's teams, and then we start to backfill. We start to look at what are the dates that are available to us. There is no question I could see us doing like regional high school football tournaments. We're looking at it how it might be a companion to the podium, looking at interesting ideas there. The best news for the stadium is it has prime tenants. It has USL, which will be, I think it's going to be fantastic. I mean, we're of the generation that didn't really play soccer, but there is a whole bunch of kids who grew up watching and playing the sport who are now huge fans. And wait to see what happens when we start to open the door for USL. It's going to be a lot of fun. But and then I think as we look at that venue and we look at what it can do, there's a unique flooring that the PFD will be able to lay out. We've looked at everything from, believe it or not, archery. Maybe something unique like field archery that could occur in something like a venue like that. So again, our job is we look at the dates, we look at the opportunities, and we try to match up these events into those dates. So I would say though, if you look at the whole North Bank between the arena, the podium, obviously, the new stadium, and I even throw in, the theater up there. There's a package of venues that are very unique, campus-like setting, all right there, overlooking the park. Every time we bring somebody through the podium and they look out over the park and the play area and the pavilion, and they always kind of look at us and go, how did you guys ever get this land? It's just this is amazing property. Thank you, Parks Department.
Definitely.
Because that's probably in many ways its best selling feature. That whole North Bank, what we're able to present as a package benefits to these governing bodies, that be able to walk through the park to your hotel, to your restaurant. It's you don't see that in a lot of markets.
Sure. Now I know Avista Stadium is more of a not necessarily more single use, I guess you'd say.
Well, not completely, but yeah.
What opportunity is there for you, and what are your what's your perspective on the improvements that are proposed there over the next 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, well, first of all, we need to keep minor league baseball in Spokane.
Sure.
The legacy, the history of minor league baseball, and what the Indians are able to present to the community in affordable entertainment, family entertainment, is unrivaled.
Yeah.
I'm a good example. I can remember going to those games, and when my daughter was young, and just you turn her loose, and she'd have a great time at the game.
Yeah.
So we got to keep that. I think it's important that we keep a vista and minor league sports, minor league baseball here. Yes, they have a long season now, which is a challenge for them, but I think it's an opportunity for all of us who want to watch more games.
Yeah.
But to answer your question about what we're looking at now, is actually there are opportunities where we'll probably be able to continue to pursue, like good examples, Division III NCAA baseball.
Okay.
Some of the high school baseball stuff.
Sure.
How many games locally could we maybe get in there? There are opportunities. You know, the challenge on a baseball stadium is it's a diamond.
Right.
It's pretty generally kind of single use.
Sure.
But yeah, the Indians are great to work with. The Indians and the county both want to see Vista used outside of just the Indians games, and they're great partners for us. So we're always going to be looking at opportunities. Again, you've got to look at the schedule. You kind of backfill into it where you can.
Sure.
And I think late season baseball is something that might be interesting to consider. You know, when the season's over for the Indians, there might be a late baseball season that there's kind of an emerging leagues out there that are talking that way. So
sure. Some small windows.
Yeah. So there's windows of opportunity. So yeah, but personally, and I just think we can't lose the Indians.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's part of our heritage.
Yeah.
It's a legacy sport for us as a community. Yeah. All the great stories of, Tommy Lasorda out there.
Sure.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. What are our gaps and challenges at this point in your industry?
Oh, it's for us, it really comes down to venues and money.
Sure.
Like any nonprofit. As much as I'm excited to tell stories about what we've been able to accomplish, podium and all these other facilities, we still have a ways to go as a community. We do need, we need to start to take the existing inventory of soccer fields, which are our natural turf, and start to transition those to artificial turf.
Okay.
That's the trend. Putting lights up on all of these facilities. We definitely could use more ice. It's a hot one. Sure. Probably with the growing demand. And the other thing I always like to mention is we all know Spokane's growing.
Right.
And we want to be able to be ahead of that growth curve. What do we want? We want to make sure that Spokane is presented to families as a place that you can bring your family. It's a place where there's an opportunity for them to compete, your kids to compete in some sort of sport. So let's stay ahead of that, because if we get behind, it's harder to catch up.
Yeah.
So let's make sure we have plenty of multi-purpose fields that are well maintained, and also meet the growing demand. And there's the fact that we don't really have a major aquatic center.
Sure. In
our region is probably a challenge. I'd love to see that. They're expensive to operate, and expensive to build. Sure. But that's one of those places. But yeah, the main thing right now, I think the next step is probably going to be the ice question. More ice, how much more ice, what kind of ice? And then I think also we just need more fields. And there's a great opportunity coming here pretty quick, to where now that the old Albee Stadium is demoed out, to add more fields to the Dwight Merkle complex, probably as many as 8 more fields up there. That's a home run for us, for not only to meet growing demand, but also for tournaments. Sure. That would give us somewhere in the neighborhood around 13, 14 fields up there, which is really a nice mix for going after some major tournaments.
Yeah. I've dipped into our Q&A time by quite a bit, actually. So do we have any questions at this point?
We do have one, Lynn, from Nadine Burgess. Hey, Nadine. As someone who has had the privilege of working with Eric and Spokane Sports with several national events in the past decade, I can enthusiastically share what a huge asset and contributor the organization is to our community. I wouldn't dream of taking on the projects that we have had and will collaborate on without the entire team's support. My question is, strictly from a personal perspective, what event would Eric be most excited to see come to Spokane?
Oh, Nadine, you're doing it to me, aren't you? I don't know. I've always said I want to see a true world championship event. One that really brings the world, in a sense, to Spokane. And I think we have opportunities for that. The podium could be an example. A true world championship event, not a World Cup or but an event that actually really puts, nations against nations. And world championship events are very popular, especially throughout the rest of the world. And we could bring the world. It'd be like another, bringing another expo if we had a world championship event. So that's my dream. But I tell people all the time, it's not any one sport or any one event or anything. To me, it's this whole environment called sports. It's this ability to really showcase our community and tell a story about who we are and what we're all about.
Yeah.
That's what gets me excited.
Great. Any other questions?
Just one more from Scott McCann. Was ice contemplated in the new football multi-use stadium?
No, it wasn't. Not in the stadium, but it was in the original thought process of the podium. But we just didn't have the room.
Yeah.
Part of it, the room, and it just didn't pencil out because we could only have one sheet if we were going to pull it off. And in order to really do the kind of tournament events that we want, especially in hockey and some degree in the figure skating, we need multiple sheets, at least two, maybe even three. So that's the next conversation we're going to have.
Sure.
And a question from Mike McBride. Hey, Mike, has Hooptown USA ever had any interest in recruiting a G League basketball team before?
Thank you.
You better ask them. No, I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
My humble opinion. It's probably more venue driven than anything at this point. But I think it's just a matter of time. Well, that's the best way I can respond.
Sure.
Good question though.
Yeah, great one.
So no other questions there, but let me ask you one, Eric, and hopefully you haven't already covered this, but does Spokane, the community, have a differentiator out there in terms of how we can attract volunteers and the support to get big events done? So we've seen with Bloomsday and Hoop Fest. Is that a differentiator for our community?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, if you consider the volunteerism that we see, every year in all of these reoccurring events, the PNQs and the Hoop Fest and the Bloomsdays and all the events that we do. Yeah, I think it is something that we can be proud of as a community. I think it just kind of speaks to who we are. We embrace community events. I mean, go back to Expo. I mean, all of those. But it's still a challenge. As we get more successful and we get more events, we need more volunteers. We need more help. So I'll encourage you to go to our website. And if you're interested, and you can drop your name in there, and we're always looking for people to want to get involved. And sometimes you get a water bottle and a t-shirt out of the deal. But yeah, I think that if you were to compare us to like markets, I bet that's one place that we would definitely shine, is how well we're able to bring support out to these events.
All right. Hey, one more question for me. You've announced your retirement.
Yeah.
Correct?
Off to
not breaking news.
No,
Yeah.
not breaking news.
So what's next for you?
I travel probably.
Yeah,
I want to see the world.
Yeah.
I've been lucky. My wife and daughter have been able to travel. Let them go, so they want to take me around the world and show me some places. And I'm an avid outdoorsman, so fly fishing and kayaking, and might even learn how to play golf again a little bit.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to stay involved in projects. I've got some passions that I want to stay involved with, so I'm ready to move on.
Okay, good. Well, that sounds great, Eric. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I really appreciate
it.
And
I'm sure everybody got a lot out of it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Numerica, for being our sponsor. Please join us next month when Michelle Hagee joins us to talk about women in leadership and business in Spokane. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.